Move the chains.
Welcome to the EndZone. Let's move the chains and talk the Giants offense, New York Giants football. In 2020, the New York Giants offense was, well, underwhelming to say the least. The G-Men were second to last in points per game, second to last in total yards, 29th in total passing yards, averaging 17.5 points per game. They finished, you know what? You're smart. I think you get the point. The Giants offense was downright awful in 2020. So why should we be optimistic about the Giants in 2021? Why are the tides turning in New York? Let's take a look at this offense and the steps taken in the offseason that were necessary and in the draft, which I think will elevate the Giants. Now, I'm not saying they will have a top 10 offense in the NFL, but increasing their points per game and production can help the Giants take massive steps forward to becoming a more competitive football franchise than they have been in years past offensively. So let's take a look at the position groups and see what makes the 2021 Giants offense so exciting and way better than 2020's offense. First, I want to address the offensive line. They had their issues last season, and a ton of people are going to point fingers at former Bulldog Andrew Thomas. And I don't like to make too many excuses for people and players in general, but Thomas was battling an injury last year, and he really struggled with his technique, which is odd because that's something that he was good at, seemed to be his strength at Georgia. He was able to recover a little bit if you watch kind of the back end of the season, but he had a really, really rough start, and I believe a real offseason and preseason can help him tremendously to grow as a young player. I'm not quitting on Andrew Thomas quite yet, like a lot of people have already hung up the helmet on. Additionally, about 2 weeks ago, we got some pretty big news for the Giants. It was confirmed that Nate Solder will most likely remain at right tackle. He should make an immediate impact for New York. He didn't play last year because of COVID-19, and I think that was a big blow to this offensive line. He's a really good player, and they really need him. The bottom line is this is one of the worst offensive line units in the NFL last year, so there's only going up from here and where they are currently. The Giants chose not to draft along the offensive line, which really tells me something. It means that this staff has some type of faith in this offensive line with some players returning from injuries and Solder coming back after COVID. With some guys like Thomas and Will Hernandez coming back healthier with a somewhat normal offseason, and with guys like Nate Solder playing at the right tackle position, I don't expect to see this offensive line struggle as much as it did last season. It may not be great, but I don't think it's going to be awful like it was in 2020. Now let's talk running backs. This one is fun and easy. Saquon Barkley, one of the most talented athletic freaks in the NFL who can do it all as a runner. He is a nasty player, and as a receiving back, he can go the distance. You watch this guy's film and you know how special he is. I mean, just look at this. His only barrier has kind of been this injury bug, but when he's healthy, he's a top running back in the National Football League. Behind Barkley is former Raider Devontae Booker. Booker's a Swiss Army knife. He's a really physical back. He's someone who's just a north and south running back and brings that physicality to the table and can break away for some big runs. Devontae Booker is a great option to have after Saquon Barkley. Can't wait to see what he does in that secondary position. All right. Moving on to the pass catchers. I love what the Giants already have in terms of Evan Ingram at the tight end position, but the production for the receivers as a whole was poor last year. They added Kyle Rudolph at the tight end position from the Vikings, and I think that he can be an immediate impact, especially in the red zone. He's a big target, and he's a nice pickup because he's super physical and can be a great option in the red zone for 50-50 ball. He is a Notre Dame tight end. Don't like to put generalizations a lot, but Notre Dame tight ends are always solid. They always seem to pan out, and I know he's a veteran. He could come in here and teach some young guys a thing or two. That's a great segue to move to one of my favorite offensive acquisitions of the offseason, Kenny Golladay. Golladay brings something that the Giants have been missing offensively. He's an explosive wide receiver. He has the ability to stretch out the field and can bring these big plays to an offense that desperately needs them. Again, only averaging 17.5 points per game. Slayton and Shepard are also returning after, again, not having a great year, but the offense wasn't having a great year as a whole. They couldn't find much separation, and they couldn't find the end zone as a unit. They dropped too many passes. We're also not going to see the return of of Golden Tate. And in the first round, the Giants selected slot wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who will probably take on that starting role as time moves on in the slot. He's a go-go gadget guy who can break free for big gains out of the slot, break tackles, make guys miss, and he's really fun to watch. If you haven't watched his film yet, you should go check him out. Galladay and Toney were much needed additions in the offseason. Also, it's worth noting that John Ross and Dante Pettis were added. I know that John Ross is considered a bust by now. He's had injuries and he just hasn't panned out with the Bengals. Don't look at John Ross as a first round wide receiver because it doesn't look like he's going to be that, but he's still a nice deep threat to have. All right, now let's talk about the quarterbacks because everybody wants to talk about the quarterback position. And this is it for Daniel Jones. It's make or break. I know things have never been ideal for Daniel Jones, but you have to think that the Giants are ready for Jones to prove himself. If you want my opinion, I think Jones will have a much improved year. You would like to see the touchdown department rise from last year's 11, and with his new weapons, I have a reason to believe that he can throw for at least 20 touchdowns. Remember, he threw for 24 as a rookie. The real question is for Daniel Jones, what does Daniel Jones have to do to keep the G-Men from drafting a quarterback next season or landing a quarterback in free agency to compete with him? Win the division, earn a playoff berth, get the wild card, or just make the Giants more competitive than last year and the year before? I think he will be better in 21, but I don't know what his expectations are and what he needs to do to secure his job for the future. If you put a gun to my head or made me make a decision right here, right now, I wouldn't be so certain that Daniel Jones is the future quarterback for the New York Giants moving on after next season. I just don't know what his ceiling is, but he can prove everybody wrong this year with an upgraded offense. While taking a look at this new and improved Giants offense, you have to see some of the potential. I'm excited to see the strides they take in 2021. So here's my question to you. What is the ceiling for this offense? How far will the Giants go? Thanks for watching the End Zone. I'd love to know your opinions down below. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we can move the chains.